The New York Jets are in a new country in a big primetime game, but will a new setting lead to new outcomes for this team? Can this team get their first win of the season over the Denver Broncos? All this and more coming up on Rich Sports Talk. Welcome into Rich Sports Talk, your home for all the latest on the New York Jets. If you are new to the channel, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss our latest live streams. If you want to donate to the channel or jump to the front of the line, use that super chat feature. We go live after every single Jets game. Like tomorrow, we will be going live after the London game. But this is a big week. The New York Jets are in their, quote, Super Bowl because we know how much this ownership group loves and prioritizes the London game. And this is going to be a little bit different of a preview show. And again, if you want to check us out on podcasts, we are available wherever podcasts are available, because I think the biggest thing, too, is at this point of the season, we have to look at the big picture for the New York Jets, and we have to see significant change. And one of the big things that will really help this team and might make a big impact is the return of Jermaine Johnson. Jermaine Johnson in line to play, missed the last 3 weeks. We know he's a great edge setter, probably this team's second best pass rusher after Will McDonald. So that will be a welcome upgrade. Some other key ones: Allen Lazard out for this game, Michael Carter II out for this game, Brandon Stevens and LaMarcus Weston questionable. My guess is Stevens will play, although we could be seeing the Jets finally turn to A.Z. Thomas. I expect more Jarvis Brownlee, although last week we saw a lot of Malachi Moore in the slot. And let's face it, Allen Lazard is just a waste in a jersey, so it's not much of a loss that he is not out there. But Jermaine Johnson coming back and Kenny Nwangu are two huge pieces for this team, because let's be honest, the kicking return game has been one of the biggest problems for this team over the last couple of weeks. Nwangu actually learns that you don't have to take it out of the end zone. You can just take the yards and take the ball on the 25. And Jermaine Johnson will mean we won't see Michael Clemens hopefully out on the field for 40 snaps. But there is one big thing that is troubling me about this team, and I think it is very important for this game, because the London game is a unique game for the New York Jets. The London game is it's almost a bowl game for the Jets, because the Jets are a unique team. Their owner, Woody Johnson, has a lot of ties in London, has a lot of big, prominent friends in London. It has made a point to put the Jets in London. I mean, that's the reason they're going back to London for the second consecutive year. And you have to wonder, Woody Johnson is a very reactional owner. Now, I don't see any big repercussions after this game, but could I see this leading to something potentially? Because let's be honest, last year in London, when the Jets did not perform, what happened? By Tuesday, they did not have their head coach. This game means something for Woody Johnson. This is a game where he can show off his franchise. This is an opportunity to show off his team to his friends in London. And if they get embarrassed, like they've been getting embarrassed, I don't think he's going to take that well. But there are troubling signs with this Jet team. And one thing that we talk about that usually is a kiss of death for a regime is, quote, players-only meetings. And Jermaine Johnson, who I consider this team's defensive leader, let the media know this week that, yes, the defense had a players-only meeting. So it's not a great sign when there's a players-only meeting 5 games into a regime's tenure. Because we were getting on Miami for having players-only meetings after 1 week. But the difference is Mike McDaniel has been there a couple of seasons. This is a very troubling sign. And the big thing is this Jet regime over the next couple of weeks has to show this fan base and this ownership something. Because basically, I can sum up this preview like I've been summing up previews for the past couple of weeks. If I look at the offense in this game, They are going against the number 2 defense with the Denver Broncos. This team can get after you. Justin Fields and Tanner Engstrom have to design a game plan where Justin Fields, again, who is a one-read, tuck it and run kind of quarterback, they have to design a game plan to get the ball out because he holds on to the ball way too long. And if he cannot process the information, he's going down to the turf hard with this Broncos team. I also think they need to be balanced in the pass and run game. I know this team is trying to establish a run-first team, which I know is their identity and their strength. But too many times, I think they get too run-happy, especially early in the game. I think you need to stretch the safety, show you can take a shot down the field to like an Arian Smith, and also get Mason Taylor more involved. He is clearly this team's number 2 pass-catching option because for whatever reason, this team doesn't want to use Breece Hall as a pass catcher, which boggles my mind. But Mason Taylor needs to be heavily involved in this scheme. And I would also say this. I know they've given Justin Fields a lot of money, but if they feel that he is not processing the information quickly enough in this offensive scheme, you have to have serious conversations about Tyrod Taylor. Because one of the things is you need to get these receivers and these tight ends on the same page. And if Justin Fields cannot process to get the ball to them and not go through the progressions, that has to be a major discussion. But I'll focus on the main issue. We all know what the main issue is. The offense has shown they can be in games. They can compete. They can do something. It's this defense. This defense has to show up. And this is a very crucial game because the Jets' backs have been against the wall for weeks now, but this is really it. This is really if you lose this game, this is going to get ugly very quickly. And I look at this game too, where Sean Payton, now again, Sean Payton had a lot of gripes with the former Jets coaching staff, but Bo Nix has been struggling this year. Yes, they beat the Eagles last Sunday. Yes, they're 3-2, but Bo Nix has not had the season I think many of us expected. He's missed a lot of easy layups. He's missed a lot of open throws. I think that Sean Payton is going to open up the playbook in this game because he is going to want to use this as the get-well game for Bo Nix. I think his goal in this game is to put Bo Nix in a position where he can have one of the best offensive games of his career and give him a building point, give him a foundation to build off of as this Bronco team goes into the second half of the season. Like that, to me, is this game for the Broncos. This to them, they're viewing this as the get-right game. This Jet defense has to get to the quarterback. They have the 7th highest blitz percentage in the NFL. They're only getting home 31st out of 32 teams. They have to get pressure with their front 4. You're hoping that the presence of Jermaine Johnson will make everyone else's job just a little bit easier. But this back end has to step up. These linebackers have to step up. Jamien Sherwood needs to have a game this week because he has looked horrendous and that contract has looked worse week by week. And this secondary, because it's going to get tested. If Brandon Stevens doesn't play, A.Z. Thomas is likely going to play. You're probably going to see a lot more Brownlee this week. They have to be clingy. They have to be able to make an impactful play and, more importantly, get a turnover. They have to get a turnover because they have already made history about not getting a turnover in 5 games. They need to force a turnover, not only for, I think, a confidence boost, but just to get that ugly number, goose egg of a 0 off of that board for turnovers. Because it's very simple. If I'm having the same conversation with you tomorrow, if I'm having the same conversation of the following, the defense didn't tackle, the defense had bad coverage, the defense didn't get after the quarterback, the corners weren't able to make a play, and once again, this defense did not force a turnover, we know what the outcome is. It's going to be a very ugly loss for this team. And this is a team, too, that I think wants to prove something to themselves. Because don't forget, the Jets last year kept shooting themselves in the foot last year at this team. The Broncos only had 60-something yards passing with Bo Nix, and they still had a chance to win this game with Greg Zuerlein last year. I think this Bronco team, almost as a point of pride, wants to prove, yeah, we're a lot better than that team that got out of MetLife Stadium with a win last year. We are a legitimate team in the AFC West. And when you look at the AFC West, you look, the Chiefs are down. This is an opportunity and a rare opportunity for potentially the Broncos, if they can keep it together, they have a shot to win this division. They have a shot to be one of the top seeds in the AFC if they can continue to build off of what they've done. And this matchup just seems like a bad matchup on both sides of the ball. You have a quarterback who struggles with going through progressions and holds on to the ball too long, going against a ferocious defense that is a very talented group and can force a lot of turnovers. You also have the flip side. You have a defense which cannot get on the same page, a defense with communication breakdowns, a defense with lapses and coverages against one of the most brilliant offensive minds in football, and Sean Payton. Like, I really think Sean Payton, I said before in the show, I think Sean Payton is viewing this as the get-right game for this offense. He's looking at this opportunity to get Bo Nix into a groove, get Bo Nix settled, get Bo Nix something to build off of for the second half of this season. One of the things this Jet team has to do is control the time of possession. And now I think it's more important. And usually when I say the time of possession, I use it because, it's Josh Allen. I want to take a possession, try to sneak a possession or way or two from him. I look at this, the offense. I want this defense on the field as least amount possible as I can. If the Jets defense is on the sideline, I have a pretty good feeling. And I also want to see the staff. You're 0-5. If it's close, go for it. 4th and 3, go for it. 4th and 2, go for it. Hopefully a better 4th down offensive calls, because I do think the 4th down play calling has been atrocious, but go for it. And once again, you're going to have to score touchdowns with your defense. So stop settling for field goals. And one thing I would also say too, because I saw the coach, Aaron Glenn, fall into this trap again. I said it earlier this week. And I actually think this is a good idea, Jet fans. And let me know what you think in the comments. Again, Super Chats jump to the front of the line. I think that if there's a new head coach ever hired by the Jets, which seems likely, or a young head coach, I think, and I have a great idea. I think what the Jets should do is get fans like us, content creators that cover the team, me, other great Jet content creators, invite us to Florham Park. Give us a conference room. Give us 1 hour with the head coach, just 1 hour. And we will tell them, this is how you can endear yourself to this fan base. And we will give you a list. We will give you a list of things not to say to the Jet fan, because you know it's not going to end well. Don't tell the Jets and their fans, this is not the same old Jets. Because you're the same old Jets until you prove you're not the same old Jets. But here's another great quote. Because apparently the Jets, guys, let me see if you've heard this one. They are the best team in the National Football League from Tuesday through Friday. Because you know what they had again this week, according to Aaron Glenn? They had another amazing practice. Can you stop using the Salah-isms, Aaron Glenn? This fan base is not stupid. You know what a good practice week will look like? A good practice week will turn up on Sunday. A good practice week will come out because your team is prepared. A good practice week will look like you have a legitimate game plan. A good practice week is when your defense is not blowing coverages multiple times in a game. A great week of practice is finishing the techniques of these corners so they're not grabbing wide receivers and creating penalties in the secondary. A great week of practice is developing some of your young players so we don't see them making the same mistakes. And a great week of practice is, hey, Michael Clemens, don't bite on the bootleg because they're going to embarrass you not only once, but multiple times in a game. That's what a great week of practice is. You know what a great week of practice is? It's when it shows up on Sunday. We could care less what you are doing in London. You know what? Aaron Glenn and anyone who's a prospective Jet coach or a Jet coach, never say you had a great week of practice. Don't just say you had a great week of practice. You know what you could say? We're working on our preparation. We're trying new things in our preparation. We are looking at new ways to attack our game plan. We are trying new ways to implement the game plan. That, to me, is a lot better language to this fan base than just we had a great week of practice. And I saw it on Twitter. The second that quote came out, I'm like, oh, God. Because I said it in the last week after the game, too. I'm like, don't tell us you had a great week of practice. Well, you know what, guys? The Jets had a great week of practice. Let's get to your comments. Tony, thank you so much. Again, always appreciate the love, Tony. Oh, Tony, one of our best listeners coming out. Glenn Cote have a lot in common, and that's not winning. You can say all you want, Aaron Glenn, but you're the only coach that doesn't have a win in the NFL. We're looking around this league. We're seeing Liam Cohen and what he's doing with Jacksonville. We're seeing what a lot of these young coaches are doing in this league. And you know what you know what they haven't done? They haven't lost every single game like you have. And the thing that really concerns me with this coaching staff is this defense. And I will give Connor Hughes a lot of credit because I was watching his mailbag show on SNY. And he said that he had talked to multiple coaches that played the Jets this year. And he said basically what we all think. Their game plan on defense is horrendous, and you can get after them. They are going to be out of coverage, and they don't do certain things well. And part of this is on Glenn, too, because of this roster construction. You knew that this was a primary zone defense. So you had two options. You could try to do a hybrid and mix both, or really gut this defense and get players who fit. If you didn't think Jamie Sherwood would fit in this defense, you had the opportunity to move off him this offseason. You had opportunities to move off of guys like Michael Carter. You had opportunity to move off of guys like Tony Adams, but these are the guys you went with. These are the guys you went with, and your first thought is like, we're going to play man. We're going to play man. Sauce can play man. A lot of these guys can't. And when I look around and I keep seeing this defense not have an identity, not have a game plan, not have a way to put these guys in a position to succeed. I think one thing I always look at with coaching is this. The best coaches have great schemes. They have great ideas. But the best coaches that succeed are they build their team until they get to the point that they have the roster that they perfectly want. But until that point, they build a team and a scheme and identity about what they have in the building. One of my problems with Adam Gase when he was here was he was asking pieces that didn't fit to basically do what he said. Like he basically just said, it's my scheme or the highway. And unfortunately, that sometimes puts players in an awkward position. And I look at this defense and I'm going, Aaron Glenn adjusted last year in Detroit, supposedly, getting guys off the street and putting them in positions to play. Like, he didn't look at this whole offseason and go, maybe we aren't going to be able to do man all the time. Maybe we'll have to do a hybrid of both defenses. Maybe we'll have to play more zone than I would prefer this first season, but it will at least put us in a position where the guys will be a little bit more comfortable and this defense won't be exposed. Well, it's been getting exposed. I don't know about that, but yeah, I did hear about Adrian Martinez. Sorry, I mean, that is crazy about how many injuries. And that's another good sign of coaching. 49ers have had a good base, but they've lost so many great players. Guess what? They're still chugging along. But this to me is also a pivotal game too, because I will have a theory about this front office and this regime that I'll talk more about at the trade deadline with my trade deadline preview. That's coming, so make sure to like and subscribe. But I have a feeling that depending on how this game goes, it is going to strike a chord with Woody Johnson. And if this team gets embarrassed in London in front of his friends in the event that he cares so much about, you saw it last year. How did he take losing last year? He fired Robert Saleh. He's not going to do anything that drastic, but I do think it will get to the point where he's going to start asking this regime and this head coach some very uncomfortable questions. Because it's one thing to lose the way the Jets have been losing, but the Jets are now going to, quote, their second primetime game. Again, I don't really consider the London games primetime, but they're standalone games, so they are technically primetime. If the Jets have a primetime disaster like they did in Miami again, and if they look outcoached again, and if they get embarrassed and this isn't another competitive game, if this Jet defense allows another 30 points again, if this team walks out of that stadium without a turnover again, I think Woody is going to have some serious questions. So, Tony, I know that's coming up. I'll dive into the trade deadline a little bit more. And again, I think tomorrow's game will also dictate too, because if the team is going to be, look, 2-5, maybe if that somehow happens, which I don't see at the point that before the trade deadline. The big thing is what you're getting back for Brees. I think if you were to ask me today, who are the two most likely trades? I think it's going to be Quincy and Brees. Quincy, again, won't get you as much as Brees, but Quincy's on the last year of his contract. Again, if he can come back healthy, I think he can make an impact to a team. Brees, to me, it will also be interesting, too, because you have to look at who is buying. When I look around the NFL standings right now, I think in 2 weeks you'll get a better understanding of who will need a running back. But I look around the NFL. Now, ideally, I think the Jets would want to trade Brees to the NFC. Like, could the Cowboys, if they rattle off another win or two, be in the market and for a running back? That could be a possibility. I don't think the Vikings or the Packers would really be in the market, but could a team, I'm just trying to look around the NFL a little bit. Could maybe the Seahawks or the Rams consider it? They're a possibility. But if you want to look at the AFC, I think the one team that made so much sense for Brees was the Chiefs. But the Chiefs are 2-3. I'm curious to see where they're going to be in a week or two. And you're wondering, are they going to be giving up assets? And I do think it's important for the Chiefs to get back to the playoffs. But with the Chiefs, I don't think they view themselves right now as a Super Bowl contender at this moment. So if you're not a Super Bowl contender, I don't see why they would mortgage all those pieces to do it. Now, the Chargers have had significant injuries in their running back room. Could they be a team that surprises us? And again, we know how much Harbaugh loves to run the football. I think they are a team to definitely watch. So those are teams I would definitely keep an eye on for Brees. But look, if this team's out of it, and you know you're not going to sign Brees Hall long-term, I definitely would make that move. Yeah, Tony, like I'll say it with you, Tony. And again, chat, get your thoughts in here for the preview. That to me has been the most disappointing because I thought that this team would be bad. But if you were to tell me the worst unit would be the defense, I would have said I really can't see that happening. But Wilks has been a problem. Wilks is now showing why he's been a one-and-done defensive coordinator multiple times. And with Aaron Glenn, do I think he might take away play calling at some point, but just keep Wilks on as DC just for optics, potentially? But I would also say this to this regime. I would not get too comfortable. And I know we've talked about a lot of one-and-dones, and I've heard a lot of people saying, I don't see this being a one-and-done with this Jet regime. Depending on where this team finishes. But I will ask you this question. How many regimes who finish with the number 1 or 2 overall pick in an NFL draft end up keeping their jobs? It is very, very rare. And weirdly, the Jets in a weird, twisted fate are somehow in a decent position to draft a rookie quarterback. Because their offensive line is actually pretty good. You actually have a legitimate number 1 receiver. You actually, I think, have a legitimate tight end in Mason Taylor. Like, you actually have pieces where when Zach Wilson first came up, he had no offensive line and barely any weapons. When you look at Sam Darnold, forget it. I mean, he was basically throwing the, chairs on the Titanic, basically. It was just horrendous. JLS, again, I think this is a good point. Do you trust this as administration? The OC more specifically to draft the top 3 quarterback. Here's the thing. This is kind of a weird question, JLS, and it's a good one, and I like how there's different elements. So as a whole, I would not trust this administration. But the weird thing is I do really like Tanner Engstrom. Like, of all the coaches on this staff, I think he's been the best one because this offense has actually been pretty good at times. I think the problem is they are limited with their quarterback because the quarterback is holding on to the football too long. But also, they're able to move the football. They've been able to go up and down the field. Now, again, they haven't been able to finish because of the fumbles, but they've shown me a lot more. They've shown creativity. And to be honest, I think the offense is more limited than this defense because They don't have a number 2 receiver. They don't have a lot of talented tight ends. And the thing that has irked me the last couple of weeks is they don't have great receivers. Why don't they use their tight ends? Why don't they find creative ways to use the tight ends? You went out and made a big push for Jelani Woods. He has been inactive for all but one game. You made a big push to go out and get Stone Smart from the Chargers, who is a good receiving option at the tight end position. They have barely used him. Like, I don't get it. Like, it's weird. I trust the OC weirdly more, but I'm not sure if I trust this overall regime. If they don't have a turnover after London, I don't know what to do. Like, I'll put it this way. They better have a turnover in London because you get those turnovers in London's on the street anyways. So I know that'll be a running joke, but hopefully the Jets have been eating their turnovers in London so they can force a freaking turnover. I mean, please. The problem is Fields either doesn't fit his system or is not using him correctly. The OC from the Lions system, right? So yes, Engstrom comes from the Lions. I'm trying to remember if he was I believe he was the QB coach, but don't quote me, JLS. The thing is, I think that Fields could work in this system. The problem with Fields, and this has been his problem in the National Football League, has been his internal clock and his ability for pre-snap read and dissecting a play. He's had a lot of trouble, and I think this staff was kind of hoping, but after being in Pittsburgh last year and sitting behind Russell Wilson, and this staff basically now him being in the league for a couple of years, that he naturally has gotten that progression. He hasn't. And there's certain guys that you can tell they have that clock in their head of when it's time to run or when it is time to get rid of the football, and he doesn't seem to have it. Now, granted, he's able to make phenomenal plays with his incredible athleticism, and he can do things on a football field that many people on this planet cannot do. But from what I see, he has trouble diagnosing the plays, the defense, when he gets up to the line, which then makes it more difficult during the play to go through the progressions because he's already a little bit behind the 8 ball because he's not sure exactly what the defense is showing. And because of that, it's taking longer to process. And with this scheme, he's seeing that Garrett Wilson is being bracketed. He's being double teamed pretty much on every play, unless they are way back in the game. They're playing a prevent defense, which is where they're getting their yards in these last couple of games, ladies and gentlemen. They're taking Garrett Wilson out. I almost would do this at this point. I would actually, if I'm Tanner Engstrom, I wouldn't have Garrett Wilson be the first read. I'd have Mason Taylor be the first read. Because the problem is, it seems like he's getting to one read and then has to go to the check down, or getting to the second read and then having trouble getting to the check down. If Garrett Wilson's going to be bracketed, until you see him not getting that bracket, then I would put him number 1 in the progression. But to start the game, I would try to do a first read for Arian Smith or Mason Taylor or someone else, just because you know they're going to try to take Garrett Wilson out of the game. So until you start getting to the flow of the game, saying, okay, they're stopping bracketing, they're leaving Garrett 1-1, we can make him the first read again. I would make a process where I would make someone else in this progression the first read, because he's having trouble going through the progressions. And it kind of goes back to this weird thing where I looked at the game against Tampa, and Tyrod also has a knack for holding on the ball, but a lot of his reason for holding the ball is different. He can go through the progressions. He's waiting for something down the field to develop. And part of me wonders, and I brought it up at the time, for the offense and for these young players to develop, would Tyrod maybe be a better quarterback? Justin Fields obviously adds an explosive element in the run game that you cannot really coach or really defend too well. But when I look at Tyrod, I see someone that can at least go through the progressions. And if I'm looking at this offense, you need to try to make Arian Smith work. You need Mason Taylor to work. So those are some of the wrinkles I personally would try to throw into the scheme. Yeah, they need to get him outside the pocket, Tony. That's one thing I'm really struggling with. Like, I don't get why they don't have a lot more play action bootlegs to get him outside the pocket. And even if he's outside the pocket, if there's not a good read, but with his speed, if he can pick up 4 yards to get out of bounds, Okay, that was a first down play. It's second and 6. You run it, third down and 4, third and 3. You're in still manageable positions. Like, that's how I would look at it. JLS with another question. If Jets get top 3 pick, I think should go in favor of Gruden, QB whisper. I would say this. I would definitely would not go with a first-time head coach. And I think that this will be a fascinating offseason because I do think there are chances there's some good coaches with good track records. I think there's a chance that Harbaugh's out of the Ravens just because they want to get a fresh start or get a fresh guy in there. One guy I would keep an eye on because I think he's been put in almost a weirdly worse situation than the Jets is Kevin Stefanski. If Kevin Stefanski is fired from the Browns, he'd be someone I'd go after because he has made a lot of quarterbacks work in this league. And I do think he's in a difficult position where I think that he likes Gabriel, but I don't think he loves Gabriel. I always looked at that Gabriel move as a kind of move to get ahead of the owner and say, well, we can't draft Shador because we have a quarterback that we drafted. Like, to me, he is a good offensive mind, someone that's a proven head coach, and someone that I would trust developing a young quarterback because I've seen him work with young quarterbacks and do a very nice job. Like, he is someone that I would keep an eye on as a head coach. And I always see Rex and Gruden get mentioned. They've just been out of the game for so long. And especially with this Jet team, the one thing I liked about Aaron Glenn this offseason was the Jets weren't really in the headlines. And I just feel like that would just bring so much extra attention to this team that does mean, look, Gruden really wasn't working too well at the Raiders. I mean, let's be honest. That wasn't exactly working too well either. So I do think it will be an interesting season for offseason for coaches. But like those are a couple names that when I think of head coaches, again, we are so far ahead of ourselves. I mean, think about this. We're not even to halfway through October, and we're already talking about the draft and future coaches. Oh, my God. Shanahan, I don't think he would lead the 49ers, though. I just don't see that. If that somehow happens, you go out there and you try to get that done. I just don't see that happening, JLS. I really don't, especially with how he's been able to overcome adversity with all the injuries. I just really don't see that. But look, I'm going to dive into the trade deadline as we get closer. I think there are some pieces on the Jets that could go. I also have a theory about the trade deadline as we get closer that I'll reveal as well. So I promise you're not going to want to miss that episode. And again, we'll come on live after the game in London tomorrow to break down all the action. Again, I think it's simple. Offense needs to control the time of possession, run the football. I think they need to get the ball out of Justin Fields' hand quicker, especially with this great defense they're going up against. And here's the big thing. This defense has to show up. There's alarming things. And look, I don't know if it's public knowledge. A lot of you guys have more experience in life than I do. If you could let me know in the chat, if you were alive during the Rich Kotite era, I really was there to process it. Did they have player meetings like this? Like, I think it's troubling with Jermaine Johnson, who's a guy I really like and respect on this team. I feel like Jermaine's one of the few leaders on this team. And he said that they're having a players-only defensive meeting this early. Guys, we're not even halfway through the season. I mean, we're barely into the quarter with 17 games now. You can make a case for still kind of at the quarter mark. And the Jets are having player-only meetings on this defense. This defense has to really show up. And Aaron Glenn, you have to show why you were a defensive coordinator and a great one in Detroit. Because if your side of the ball is going to be this non-competitive, you don't deserve to be a head coach. And I want Aaron Glenn to succeed. I like Aaron Glenn. I think it's a great story for the Jets. I think it would be great if Aaron Glenn could succeed. But here's the thing. The Jets and their fans need to see something different. because we've seen the same story now for 5 weeks, especially since the Pittsburgh game. We've seen the same thing over and over again. You can change parts of the script. You can change the names in the script, but it's been the same movie. This has been the team last 4 weeks. Come out early, have a great drive, but shoot themselves in the head with either a penalty, a fumble, or they can't get into the end zone. It's somewhat close in the first quarter. Team makes a boneheaded mistake that deflates this team. Defense gives up a 90-plus yard TD drive. Get behind early. This team gets down to 2 possessions. Teams realize that it's a 2-possession game. They know the big thing that can hurt their team is giving up a 70-yard play. They go prevent, make it easier for Justin Fields to move the football. Jets get some garbage time, touchdowns and yards, make it an optical illusion that this is somehow close. Then the other team will find a way to finish off the Jets. That's been the script the last couple of weeks. Break the script. Have us so the Jets are leading in the fourth quarter for once. Have it so this team can lean on this running game with a lead late. Have it so you can have your best players on defense hunting, where you're having Bo Nix forced to throw, where you have to have Bo Nix face a blitz late in the fourth quarter. You know one of the reasons why this Jet defense is not getting home? They're not playing with leads. Teams can run the ball down their throats, and teams have been doing that the last couple of weeks. This team has to show that they are at least making changes, because I've seen the same defense over and over again. It's a bad movie. I keep seeing it over again. Blown coverages, wide open, bad penalties. Like, this team, I keep seeing the same thing over and over and over again. And the big thing for this week, if you want to start restoring faith within this fan base, Aaron Glenn, you have to break the cycle. You have to break the cycle. I'm not even saying win this game, but show that this team looks different than the last couple weeks. Have a lead in the second half. Be able to lean on this run game late. Be able to be playing with the lead. Instead of this team down by 2 possessions in the second half of the game, and we pretty much know the game is over. And stop trying to, like, when you're down more than 2 possessions, don't be running the football. You have to get back into this game, and don't be kicking field goals when you're down multiple possessions. Because you know what that is? That's a loser mentality. And here's this thing with this fan base. I love this fan base. The passion this fan base has is incredible. This fan base might not know X's and O's. This fan base might not know how to draft. This fan base might not know personnel. But you know what this fan base is really good at? They are really good at recognizing bad coaching. They are really good at recognizing what a bad team looks like, because that's what they've known for 15 years. That's what they've seen for 15 years. That's what they've put up with for 15 years in this playoff drought, because they see other teams figure it out. They see other teams figure out with the quarterback. And there's going to be uncomfortable questions. Like, if this team loses again, I guarantee you, Woody Johnson, and again, you can have your opinions on Woody Johnson's. I do think Woody Johnson cares about this team, and he's trying to get it right. But I do think Woody Johnson, you tell me if you can see this. This team gets blown out again. You don't think he's going to come up to Aaron Glenn, Darren Muji, and ask, guys, can you answer a question for me? I have a serious question for you. And I think Tony brings up a great point, because I think that this is relevant. Guys, can you explain to me? We came to this offseason not really having a quarterback. Yes, we got Justin Fields, but we didn't really have a quarterback. You made the decision you didn't want to deal with Aaron Rodgers. And a part of me understands why this team wanted a fresh start. I get it. You made that decision, Aaron Glenn, that you didn't want Aaron Rodgers back for a season. Okay, I let you make that decision. Can you explain to me how in a draft where there were quarterbacks, you didn't do your due diligence on Jackson Dart? Can you explain to me, Aaron Glenn, Darren Muji, why when we don't have a franchise quarterback, you didn't look at quarterbacks like Jackson Dart? Because I guarantee Woody's going to say, because I saw him in that Thursday game against the defending Super Bowl champion. You know what he looked? He looked really good. He had moxie. His team loved playing for him. He had an energy. I mean, I like Justin Fields. I think Justin Fields is a good, quiet leader, but at the same time, He's not going to be the rah-rah guy that gets this team ready to go. Like, that's just not his personality type. Like, if I'm Woody Johnson, it's a serious question. Like, I'm going to him. I'm like, hey guys, I want to ask a serious question with Jackson Dart. Last year, you had 30 visits with quarterbacks, Cam Miller and Tyler Shaw. Okay, day 2, day 3 picks. Maybe we'll take a flyer. Okay, sure. Can you explain to me how when we don't necessarily have a quarterback, you didn't scout him? Can you explain to me why we had to go do multiple visits with Quinn Ewers, Cam Ward, Kyle McCord, Jordan McLeod, Jalen Milroe? You didn't even entertain me. We had a 7th overall pick, and you didn't think we should talk to one of the top quarterbacks in the draft? Didn't even bring him in for an interview. Didn't even go to his pro day. Didn't do any of that. You didn't think it would be good due diligence. Can you explain why? Because I'll ask you this. If you didn't think he was a franchise quarterback or had the potential to be one, and you didn't think it was necessary to bring him in, then, gentlemen, I have a very simple question for you. Why should I entrust this fan base? Why should I entrust this decision to potentially take a franchise quarterback to you guys? Because you didn't bother looking at this opportunity in the draft and you missed on him. What gives me the confidence that you are going to make the right decision? That's going to do it for this episode of Rich Sports Talk. Again, thank you everyone for joining us on the program. We will be live after the Jets London game. We'll have our thoughts on the Jets' performance, what happens next, talk about the NFL trade line. Again, we'll have you on. So again, like and subscribe so you don't miss any of the live streams. Check us out with our podcast stream. Again, I love this Jet fan community. Share and like so we can get more great Jets fans in for the discussion and more debate. You guys are phenomenal as always. Again, thank you everyone for joining us for this episode. I'm looking forward to seeing you here in more live streams in the coming months. Until next time, I'm your host, Nolan Rich. And this has been Rich Sports Talk. We will see you next.